Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'm hosting today's show. On the hazardous weather graphics, no watches, warnings, or advisories are out for tonight or tomorrow anywhere across southern Alaska, including the southeast coast. But up to the north, winter weather advisory was out throughout the day today and is due to end at 6 p.m. Saturday evening up here along all of the Arctic coast due to blowing snow resulting from the 35-mile-per-hour wind gusts that were going on across much of the area up there. And that reduced visibilities down to a half mile in some places or less at times. Again, throughout the day and scheduled to end at 6 p.m. Moving on to the Bering Sea, southwest coast, no watches, warnings, or advisories out there as well. And it was another windy day here across the southwest interior. Bristol Bay, Kiliginak getting gusts over 50 miles per hour again as this next system. First system from yesterday all the way up there toward Wrangel Island, and most of the moisture off the coast now here through the Bering Strait, but areas of snow, western Arctic coast, gusty winds up to 30 miles an hour, Cape Lisburne, and then this next system pulling northward here a little bit farther to the west, but the front right through here. And again, that kicked the winds back up across Bristol Bay today. And Cold Bay seeing gusts 40 to 50 miles an hour with rain changing to showers throughout the afternoon. And rainfall about just under 4/10 of an inch at Kodiak, nearly 4/10 of an inch at Kodiak State Airport during the 12-hour period today there. And lesser amounts back along the Alaska Peninsula, but moisture pushing northward here. Snow has started Seward, 2 miles visibility in light snow this afternoon at about, I'll say, 3 o'clock or so. And just clouds are spreading into Prince William Sound and northward across much of the interior, cloudiness now. This front pushing eastward, kind of a breakaway system here, dropping southeastward there, nudging some clouds up, looks like toward Heidelberg and across Dixon Entrance, but and that's about it. That's mostly, that will slide off to the southeast, that disturbance out there. And out to the west, a little bit chillier air way out west here, bringing snow showers, will bring snow showers in toward the Shimiat-2 area. Just scattered today to isolated, more numerous back to the west, and they'll be swinging eastward as well. On the this front here, again, is going to continue to lift northward. And it looks like a pretty good chance of moisture coming across south central Alaska tonight and into tomorrow. On the chart, there's roughly the position of the frontal boundary right through here, something like this, cutting across Bristol Bay as that low pulled up into the southeast Bering, and the other one retreating back up across the Russian Far East there. And then the front kind of eastward here with a breakaway system right in this area. Probably could have put a low pressure area there, and that's going to be taken off to the southeast and passing the Panhandle by to the south. So a pretty nice day there today. Not much change in store for this evening. Gusty northwest winds here bringing a little bit cooler temperatures into the eastern Aleutians, eventually into the Alaska Peninsula. But any snow that fell at sea level was quite wet and didn't amount to too much. A little chillier, as I mentioned, out over the western Aleutians with more snow shower activity and snowfall levels down closer to sea level. Weak band right through here, really just clouds, no moisture with it. A little drier on each side of that band, and then the gradient up there on the Arctic coast resulting in the 35-mile-per-hour wind gusts they were seeing along well, much of the coastline and the areas of blowing snow. Looking at the forecast for tonight, this low continues to weaken and pull north-northwestward. Enough of a gradient. Winds will diminish a little bit, but they won't end altogether across Bristol Bay, and especially the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. And but it will dry out. Showers become quite isolated and scattered in the form of rain or snow here for the southwest interior, mostly lingering along the Aleutian and Aleutian Range and Alaska Peninsula. This front lifting northward, could see overnight into tomorrow, maybe 1 to 1.5 inches of snow. Northern Cook Inlet into the Matanuska-Susitna Valley as that rolls through. Main bulk of moisture coming through late tonight, early tomorrow morning with this front. And kind of a mixed precipitation pattern here, wintry mix with the rain snow line, Northern Cook Inlet northward, or the Northern Cook Inlet southward with the snow line north of Northern Cook Inlet, and the rain right along the coast there. And again, you can see this sliding southeast, missing the panhandle, stays fair over the interior. Forecast for Sunday, a couple of lows. The next one coming northward here, bringing a lot of moisture and warm air, so wind and rain on the increase once again. Sliding on up into Bristol Bay, Alaska Peninsula, eventually Kodiak Island in the afternoon there. Main low center still south of the Alaska Peninsula, about 985 millibars. High pressure holding here over the Gulf of Alaska, although this weakening front really dissipating now, kind of stuck in the middle of the two high centers there, so it won't be, really hasn't got much of a push to the east. It'll just do a slow dissolve right along or off the coast and bring a chance of maybe some light precipitation to the north coast tomorrow. Otherwise, whatever falls won't be too much. And still probably will see some sunshine the farther east you are over toward the border. So in other words, dry with light winds for the panhandle. Looks like a band of snow will lift up across the eastern interior during the day tomorrow from south to north. Really breaking up in this portion here of the frontal boundary, and then a little more organized widespread snow up to the northwest. And back to the west, high pressure building in behind that, behind this thing, so northwest winds and drier conditions. And then the next storm enters the picture tomorrow night, actually, or tomorrow evening. The western Aleutians pushing eastward with gale force winds and rain into the Adak and then eventually the Atka area. Higher pressure to the east of that, drier conditions and less wind with that low kicking inland here. And again, kind of a mixture of precipitation coming across southern Alaska on Monday. Pretty interesting day. And again, lots of IFR, marginal VFR to go along with this. Looks like a slot of rain here, but after this trough pushes through, it'll be trending back towards snow across south central Alaska. Rain, heavy at times over the northern panhandle, a lot less to maybe none at all down toward Dixon Entrance and Metlakatla. Lows for tonight, again, dropping close to 35 below zero there, Northway and Tok area. Otherwise, in the mid-20s for the Yukon Flats. 0 to 10 below central eastern Arctic coast, 0 to or up to possibly in the teens for the west side there. And that mild southerly flow, 30s mid to upper for the Alaska Peninsula, mid-30s for Kodiak, and quite a range here across the southeast coast, anywhere from the upper teens to near 30. And out over the Aleutians, upper 30s. And then for the highs tomorrow, mild 35 to 40 here over the southwest, still a shade below zero over the eastern interior. And then lows for Monday morning, a shade below zero for the lows, so much milder, and lower to mid-30s here over the southwest interior. And now 25 to 35 for the lows for the panhandle, above zero along the Arctic coast, 20s out to the west and northwest. Highs in the afternoon above freezing here across much of the southwest interior, lower 40s over Bristol Bay.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather. By tomorrow morning, we'll have IFR making a good jog up here to the north, right and across southern Alaska, up to just about the Alaska range. Not quite making it, though. And IFR here from, well, about Dillingham, Togiak Bay area, right on up the coastline to the Bering Strait and out to the west over much of the northern Bering Sea, down to about the Pribilofs, otherwise south of there, marginal VFR covering much of the Aleutians, breaking up a little bit here, a little bit of ridging ahead of the next system out west. And marginal VFR in and along Prince of Wales Island to roughly Port Alexander, maybe Sitka. VFR over the remainder of the southeast coast. Northeast interior looking really good. Marginal VFR trying to increase there over the western Copper River Basin. Tomorrow afternoon, tries even harder there, a little more widespread in the Copper River Basin. Some IFR showing up there, northeast Prince William Sound. And marginal VFR now off the coast, so VFR for all of this panhandle, increasing, lowering conditions here even over the eastern interior now. Big area IFR from the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island, down along the southwest coast, pushing inland there over the Kilbrook Mountains. IFR here along the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range. Not quite making it up to Windy Pass, though, and even some increasing marginal stuff over the central western Tanana Valley, a breakout here to the west, And then for the day Monday morning, widespread IFR. In fact, a lot of IFR here over interior Alaska, Kodiak Island, south side of the Alaska Peninsula, all of the southwest interior, much of the western interior actually, a little bit of least VFR forming on the lee side of the Brooks Ranger, IFR on the Arctic coast, and marginal VFR over the northern panhandle. And then for the afternoon, that improves a little bit, but we either got marginal VFR or IFR over all of mainland Alaska and the Panhandle, as well as the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island marginal. Looks like VFR though for the Fox Islands, Nikolsky to Unalaska, on up to St. Paul, St. George, marginal VFR for St. Lawrence Island, and areas of marginal VFR here from about, looks like Adak on out to the west, so Atka sitting in the VFR zone. For passes, Anatuvik starting out VFR, gradually becoming marginal. That'll be on that southern entrance and probably in the afternoon. Same forecast for Adigan. VFR becoming marginal on the southern entrance. Heavier stuff for the lower conditions probably moving in tomorrow night, tomorrow evening. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR, IFR, good possibility on both eastern entrances of those passes. Not quite as bad up there for Windy, becoming marginal VFR, with VFR holding on the eastern entrance into the Kuskokwim Valley. And then for Windy, look for occasional possibilities of some increasing marginal VFR in that southern entrance there. Probably holding off until tomorrow evening, but still a chance tomorrow afternoon, otherwise VFR. Isabel becoming marginal VFR, and Mentasta generally VFR, but chance becoming marginal on the south entrance there in the later afternoon hours. For Tanita, marginal VFR early on with the first surge of moisture, and that'll could become VFR in the afternoon as that first surge moves on out. And then for Portage, though, IFR in the eastern entrance, otherwise marginal. Chilkoot and White, another VFR day. And for the freezing levels here, 2,000 feet here with that upper level ridging, starting to break down a little bit there, but really holding through the area. So warm air aloft here from the Gulf of Alaska up into the east central interior. Otherwise at the surface now, north inland of the southwest interior, back out across the northern Bering Sea, along the coastline, still on the outer coastline of the Panhandle. For flying or for icing, we've got areas of considerable moderate rime here with a good surge of moisture coming northward to Kodiak Island along the Aleutian Range and portions of the Alaska Peninsula. That's where the heaviest action will be of about 5,000 feet. Otherwise, that dying front there, keeping a chance of some light rime icing along the central eastern coast there, right along the north coast of the Panhandle and dissipating onto the south, and another surge swinging up to the northwest. And the winds aloft, south to north flow, pushing that surge northward, and 120 knot jet curving the top of the ridge there, and then off to the southeast, 9,000 feet up to 45 to 50 knots, Kodiak Island, 25 to 30 here over the western interior, maybe up to 35 knots, with 20 knot winds out of the northwest for the Panhandle, lighter winds with a ridge out over the Aleutians. Same thing at 3,000 feet here, 35 to 40 knot winds. Good, another windy day coming up with that next system. Turbulence-wise, widespread moderate chop here right up into the northeast interior, Kodiak Island, and along the Alaska Peninsula.
Dual polarization technology is a major upgrade to the current radar system. It allows forecasters a better idea of what's actually out there and can help keep you safe.
Current radar technology transmits and receives information in the horizontal direction, which is very limited. Dual polarization technology, in addition to the horizontal, transmits and receives vertical energy, which allows forecasters to get information about the size, shape, and phase of the precipitation. We can use that information to better determine the precipitation type to expect at your given location.
There you have it. This new technology is currently being installed in radars across the country and is already being used by National Weather Service forecasters to produce better, more accurate forecasts. Learn more here and follow us. Want to know about the future of weather radar? Well, the National Severe Storms Lab has it here with its new phased array radar. Let's check it out.
It's a non-moving radar. It has 4 faces of the antenna, each pointing in different directions. One of the big advantages is that we're seeing so far, it can sample the area around the radar in less than a minute, maybe even a half a minute. And this is 5-6 times faster than what they can do today.
NSSL is leading the development of future weather radar with this project. Learn more here and follow us. The Storm Prediction Center is one of the NOAA weather partners. They are located in the National Weather Center in Norman, Oklahoma. Greg Carbon gives us a glimpse into what the SPC does.
Our mission is to analyze and forecast severe thunderstorms and the potential for tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds from those thunderstorms across the lower 48 states, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. One of the primary missions of the Storm Prediction Center is the issuance of severe thunderstorm and tornado watches across the country when conditions appear to be coming together to support the development of severe thunderstorms and tornadoes.
The world-class meteorologists in the Storm Prediction Center specialize in severe weather and keeping you safe. Learn more here and follow us.
The National Severe Storms Lab is working on increasing the lead time for severe weather warnings. The national average for tornado warnings is currently 13 minutes, but more notice would be helpful, especially for those in charge of moving large groups to shelter. Warn on Forecast will help forecasters issue hazardous weather warnings earlier. The project will give them more info about the chances of strong winds, large hail, and even tornadoes.
Currently, warnings are created by forecasters looking at the atmosphere outside, understanding its volatility, and then comparing that to how they see the Doppler radar presenting what's going on inside thunderstorms. Warn on Forecast is an idea where we're going to take the massive amounts of satellite, radar, and surface data and stick them all into a very high resolution prediction model. And then by producing new forecasts every 15 or 20 minutes, the forecasters hopefully will be able to use that model to produce warnings that extend out to an hour.
Before the National Weather Service can use this tool, it must be developed and tested. One big challenge will be deciding how to get the model predictions to the forecasters.
I'm going to keep this one very low. I'm just adjusting the track.
These hazardous weather prediction models are going to produce a huge amount of output. And this fire hose of data is just too much for forecasters to handle in real time quickly. So in order to help deal with that, NSSL has developed a related project called Facets. And Facets is the methodology which will enable forecasters to focus very quickly on the most important threats.
Once Warn on Forecast and Facets are proven to be reliable and effective, then forecasters will be better able to inform you of threats nearby. Learn more here and follow us.
The Hazardous Weather Testbed is located at the National Weather Center in Norman, Oklahoma. It is used for experiments that will allow forecasters to learn and apply new technologies.
The Hazardous Weather Testbed is a really unique space throughout all of NOAA. And this is where the researchers and the operational folks come together in a common space to solve operational problems and to test new research tools that the research community is working on. The goal is to accelerate the transfer from research to operations of the newest tools and techniques.
People come from around the world to collaborate on this unique project.
We can bring together not only NOAA people, but also university people, faculty, researchers, private sector meteorologists, folks working in other countries in meteorology, forecasters can all come together and focus on what the problem of the day is with the forecasters.
Each Each spring, several experiments occur in the hazardous weather test bed. Learn more here and follow us.
What are you looking at? And what are you ignoring? Did you notice the NOAA logo in the corner? Forecasters have a lot of information in front of them too. Every second counts during severe weather, and decisions about where to focus are constantly being made. This could be even more challenging in the future. Phased array radar will produce 4 to 6 times more information than what we have now, which brings us to the question researchers are hoping to answer. Will more radar information affect forecasters' decisions?
From our past experiments, we've learned a lot about how forecasters think during the warning decision process, but we've also learned that those thought processes are very complex, and for that reason, we need a better way to be able to track forecasters' cognitive activity.
Inbounds and possibly golf ball sized hail.
An eye tracker is a piece of technology that is used to determine in real time where someone's eye gaze is located. And these eye trackers are typically video-based, which means a camera sits below a computer monitor, and with infrared light and vector analysis, we can determine where a person is looking and how their eyes are moving.
Eye tracking is already being used in the medical field and air traffic control. Using similar research methods, NSSL is discovering the benefit for weather forecasting too. Phased array radar will give forecasters a lot more to think about. Understanding their decision-making process will help researchers develop even more user-friendly tools. So what's the benefit for you? Even better weather warnings. To learn more, check us out online and follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis, not too different from yesterday. Still a little gap right up in here between the Russian coast and St. Lawrence Island, but ice southward to Nunivak Island really thins out here on into Bristol Bay, and the wind pattern here not really conducive to any ice extension, any further ice advances to the west or southwest, at least for the next couple of days. Moving on to the coastal water forecast across the southeast coast, the outer coastline, very light winds tomorrow, south 10 on the south coast, seas 7 feet, just under small craft advisory levels there, but small crafts up here on the north coast due to those 8-foot seas, but the winds only 10 to 15 knots. Southerlies at 15, Lynn Canal, and light and variable winds over the central and southern inside waters. Monday, that picks up, becomes a little more southeasterly here, only 15 for Clarence Strait, but southeast 25, gust 40 for Stevens Passage, and south 30, gust 45 for Lynn Canal. Otherwise, west-southwest 20 to 25 on the south coast, and south-southwest at 25 on the north coast, so those seas up to 11 feet. Excuse me, Prince William Sound, northeast 15 tomorrow, seas 2 feet. Easterlies at about 20 for the North Gulf Coast. Western North Gulf Coast, we've got a northeast wind at 20 knots, which collides here with a southwest wind at 20 knots with 9-foot seas. Southeast 20 for Kachemak Bay, and light northeasterlies 10 to 15 for Cook Inlet. Outlook for Monday, big increase in the winds here south of the Forelands, picking up to 30 knots throughout the day, and that'll extend down across Kachemak Bay and the Barren Islands, but just east at 10 knots up over northern Cook Inlet. 25 knots out of the east, so an increase in the wind here for Prince William Sound on Monday, 6-foot seas. Southerlies for the North Gulf Coast at 25 with 12-foot seas. And for the Alaska Peninsula, we've got southeast winds here from Cape Saratchev up to Sitkinak for tomorrow. 30 knots, 16-foot seas, small craft advisories here on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. For south to southeast winds, 25 knots. And for Kodiak Island, southerlies at 30 knots, Shelikof Strait south at 24-foot seas. And the outlook for Monday, southwesterlies for Shelikof Strait, all of Kodiak Island there, south of the Barren Islands, and for at 30 knots with 17-foot seas here, and then nearly 20-foot seas with west winds at 30 knots on the Pacific side of the peninsula, west at 30 also on the Bering Sea side, but seas not quite as high, 8 to as high as 11 feet. And out over the Fox Islands tomorrow, we've got north-northwesterlies, 25 knots, small craft advisory, seas 7 to 12 feet. Northwest 20 to 25, a little lighter here for the AKwx area. See 7 to 8 feet and kind of a lightening up of the wind here ahead of the next front coming in late tomorrow afternoon, pushing those winds up out west to 30 knots. That'll continue eastward. Now we got a storm warning in the forecast here for Monday, mostly from Kiska Island over to just about Adak, otherwise Adak and Atka. High-end gales, 45 knots south-southwest, high-end gales out west there, 24-foot seas, and minimum gales advancing in toward Nikolsky, otherwise Unalaska Island, west 25 to 30 knots with 15-foot seas. Southwest coast, south of Nunivak Island, small brisk wind advisories tomorrow, but seas in the ice-free areas up to 7 feet. Southeast 20 on the north side of the island, just 15 for St. Lawrence Island, westerlies at 20 for the Pribilofs. Southwest 25 in store for the next day for St. Paul, St. George, and gales here coming into the northern Bering Sea, St. Matthew Island zone. Otherwise, westerlies 20 to 30 knots for the southwest coast and on up to St. Lawrence Island. Along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast tomorrow, we've got kind of a lighter, definitely lighter, more variable wind pattern. West to southeast 10 to 15 to south 10 on the central coast, back to southwest at 10. So much lighter and more variable in the winds up there tomorrow. Otherwise, from Cape Thompson down to the Bering Strait, we've got east winds coming up to 25 knots. And then those brisk wind advisories end probably later tomorrow night and definitely through Monday here, southeast 15, northeast 10 to 15, central and west coast, easterlies at 15 on the east side. And looking at the forecast for tonight, this front pushing northward here, good southerly flow, just drive it right on in, up the west side mainly, but definitely coming across southern Alaska with some precipitation, maybe 1 to 2 inches of snow, otherwise rain and snow mixed or just plain rain along the coast. And for tomorrow, that system dies off the panhandle. The next one building and coming northward, wind and rain and warm air spreading northward, which on Monday, that whole thing tracks off to the northeast. The original one back to the northwest there moves up as this trough along the Arctic coast. This one we're looking initially kind of a mixture of precipitation there trending towards snow later in the afternoon and evening. Thanks for joining us and have a great weekend.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.